Hi guys, so in a space of just 1 month, I was able to move from knowing completely nothing to actually communicating in Spanish acceptably well. How was I able to do that? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys the tips and I believe the basics that are needed for anyone to learn any language. Well, it is true every language is different and the basics of some languages are different from others, but I do believe that if you follow these principles, you'll actually be able to learn whatever language you want to learn. So come on, please stick around right through to the end. Now first, you'll be thinking, how many languages are you able to speak? What qualifies you to be able to teach me to learn a language? Plain and simple, not too many. But if it worked once, it should certainly be able to work very many other times. In my country, I can actually speak 3 languages because I speak English, which is the official language in my country, but then I speak 2 other local languages. But those 3 ideally wouldn't be considered because most of us who are watching right now, you're grown up and you just want to learn a new language. So the languages learned in childhood, anyone can learn. English, it was taught in school for us and anyone could learn it. But I chose to learn Spanish and I'll tell you, in just 1 month, I was able to read and write in Spanish. I wasn't able to speak and listen, and it's because the modes and the methods of learning that I was using actually concentrated more on reading and writing, which I do believe are the most important basics of learning a language. Because if you can read and write and comprehend, then it's very easy for you to listen and speak with time. So I haven't learned other languages not because it's not possible, it's simply because I haven't had the interest. I had the interest of learning Spanish and actually went out there, and in a month I was able to do it. Now first, I'll tell you the things that don't work, the things that I tried, and trust me, it doesn't matter how much time you spend trying to use them, you'll never really learn. Number 1, Google Translate. Yeah, I tried using Google Translate for quite some time to learn Spanish. So you copy, someone texts you something, you copy, paste it inside Google Translate, change it to English, and you think you've learned that way. No, it's impossible to learn that way because the thing with learning is that it must involve some form of pain, some form of suffering, some form of being uncomfortable. You have to go beyond your limits, usually, to learn. That's why while we were in school, we were given exercises. In school, the teacher didn't just come and teach you things, and then after that they left and went. There would be no certainty that you would actually be able to memorize those things and learn them. Actually, you would never have done so if you are not being given exercises. So that's why exercises are important. The exercises are things that you're not comfortable with, but they stimulate your brain. They cause some form of pain, some form of being uncomfortable. And Google Translate takes away all the suffering completely. You won't try to memorize something, you won't try to retrieve something from your memory, and you won't learn anything that way. The second one is using apps like Duolingo. I spent quite an amount of time using apps. I think I had probably downloaded 10 or more and tried to use them on my phone, and they never work. Trust me, they never work because they follow the same principle. Of course, the thing with apps is that they might work a little bit better than Google Translate because you can learn a bit of vocabulary on apps. You cram and they'll bring you a few tests and you try to memorize them. The problem with apps though is that they don't really teach grammar. Like I said, it's mainly grammar. Now, you might not understand what the difference between vocabulary and grammar is because you've forgotten what it is. Vocabulary are simply the words that you know, word for word, is, tree, girl, eat, whatever word it is. Once you learn it, it's part of your vocabulary. Grammar is literally the ability to communicate, the ability to form sentences and express yourself. That's what grammar is, and communication is all about grammar. Vocabulary is useless without grammar. If you have very little vocabulary and you have a lot of grammar, you can survive well in a particular country. You don't need to learn too many words. As long as you can communicate, people will be able to understand you. And with time, you'll be able to learn more and more words and your vocabulary will be able to expand. Now, these apps, most of the apps will actually be giving you vocabulary and not grammar. And if they give you any form of grammar, it's not grammar that's explained. Most of it is just grammar. So you never really understand it. Someone twists a sentence just a little bit and you're lost, you're confused. So those two don't work. Let's leave that. Let's get on to the things that work. First, the main thing that I do believe you'll need is dedication. Dedication is important. Discipline. For the 1 month for which I learned Spanish, I made sure that I did these lessons every day. without fail. So for you, it might not be every day, it might be, every other day. I would actually recommend that you do it every day. Even if it's just 15 minutes every day, you'll be able to do way more than someone who's doing it every other day. The discipline, the consistency is the most important thing for you to learn. So after that, the next thing was to go to YouTube and try to learn as many of the simple things as possible. So I learned the alphabet, learned how to greet, learned how to introduce myself, learned how to, ask for directions, give someone directions. And you might tell me, well, that's exactly what an app would do. And that is true. But that's just the beginning. The purpose of that is simply to give you confidence, a boost in confidence, for you to feel like, hey, I know something. In reality, you actually don't know too much. But psychologically, your mind is the most important thing, yeah? So if you're able to boost your mind psychologically, then it will be very, very, very easy for you. So this ability to feel like you know something, this ability for you to understand that, hey, I can actually speak the alphabet, I can ask for directions, will give you a big confidence boost before you get to the rest of the things. Because when you go to the harder things and you haven't even been able to learn a few of the simpler things, man, it's easy for you to lose confidence and trust in yourself and to give up, because you feel like these things are so hard, I can never ever learn them. Start with the simple things, learn as many of them as possible, and here, use YouTube. The advantage with using YouTube, this exact platform you're watching from, is that you can get very many sources and people expressing it in different ways. Watch 3-4 videos, maybe you're learning the alphabet or you're learning how to introduce yourself. Watch it from 4 or 5 different people. Each one of them will give you their own version of it. And usually on YouTube, the advantage of YouTube is that it's not like an actual class. People give you real life scenarios, how exactly they would speak in real life. And so when you meet someone and you're trying to learn this language and you speak to them that way and then they respond to you, you'll be like, this is actually nice. I spoke and someone understood me. So it's a very nice confidence booster. Okay, now we are done with the confidence boosting. Then comes the real thing. I believe the real thing, or the only thing you really need to focus on, is grammar. That's all I spent most of my time on. There's lots of books. For example, while I was learning Spanish, there was lots of books. You find lots of books about vocabulary and you find lots of books about grammar. I decided to only learn grammar, to spend most of my time on learning grammar. And the thing with learning grammar is that as you learn the grammar, you learn how to form the sentences. The situations in which you're actually able to use the language keep increasing, just a little by little. Today you could only say, I eat. Tomorrow you'll be able to say, I ate. And the next day you'll be able to say, I used to eat. And the next day you'll be able to say, I'm going to eat. So just like that, the ability for you to express yourself in this language becomes more expansive and easier. And that's really good for not only your confidence boosting, but also for you to actually use the language in real life. Because in real life, words are not spoken as crammed sentences. You have to keep changing things around. Tenses are changed around each and every day. So this is it. As you learn grammar, you need to try and memorize every word used in the vocabulary of that sentence. For example, in this sentence we are learning, the boy goes to the cinema. So you need to make sure you learn the word boy in whatever language you're learning it in. Goes, that's more of the grammar bit, so that's where you're going to be putting most of your attention. Goes, went, used to go, that's where you're going to be putting most of your focus. So that one is going to be quite hard for you to forget. And then the cinema, so you need to make sure that the next time you come across the word cinema, you know what it is. And I'll tell you how I learned most of the words, even the grammar words, the verbs especially. I had posters that I stuck up on all my walls, all around my house. I put posters, and on there I put all the verbs that I thought I would need. And those were very, very useful because every time I would enter that room, I would just keep looking at the posters, They are put up in groups on different walls, different parts of the wall. And then a time reached where if I needed to try to remember a particular verb, I would just need to know which area of the room it's in. And as soon as I know the area of the room it's in, for example, climb, I know, climb, I wrote climb over here. As soon as I remember that I wrote climb over here, I'll know what the word for climb is. So just using pictures around the room to try to locate and isolate areas makes it really, really easy. It gives you a more photographic aspect and not just trying to cram things. And it's easier for you to memorize things if they are put in terms of a photograph. And then lastly, it's very, very useful that you get someone, a native speaker of the language, to try and practice the language with. Now this can certainly work two ways. It can either work to encourage or discourage you. Now I know this because I did exactly the same. I had a friend who I started practicing Spanish with, and I'll tell you, at the beginning, I could understand nothing of everything she would tell me. And it would make me feel bad because I would look and I'm thinking, I've learned so much. How can it be that I can not understand anything? I feel like I put in too much effort. How can it be that I've not been able to understand anything? And the worst bit is that in retrospect, she told me that at the beginning, she was trying to use the simplest Spanish while speaking to me. And even at that time, I felt like I was understanding nothing. So at that point, you can either feel like, hey, man, I don't think I'll be able to learn anything. Or it can actually work to stimulate you to learn more and more and more and more. Luckily enough for me, it stimulated me to want to learn as much as possible, because I would feel really good when once in a while she sends me a message and I'm able to understand half of what she has said, or I'm responding to her in a message and I actually don't need to check a dictionary to convert a particular word. It felt really, really good being able to make those small milestones, to see the change. The more you do it with someone, the easier it becomes. And again, like I've said, because someone is speaking to you and you feel the necessity of having to respond to them, the pain is present. That being uncomfortable is actually present, and that pushes you to actually want to learn more. And so using these very, very simple basics, number one, not focusing on using Google Translator or one of those language apps. Number two, focusing on learning grammar. Number three, going to YouTube when I don't understand something. Even while learning grammar, you'll find a few things that you don't understand. Go back to YouTube. Maybe do 3 or 4 videos about it. Different people trying to explain the same thing. Consolidates the information. And then lastly, getting someone to practice with, it made it quite easy. So by the time the month ended, I wasn't able to speak and listen, but I could read and write. I could read a newspaper article in Spanish. It was very impressive. And then the final tips are, try to use your hobbies, the things that you love, to learn the language. Try to use the hobbies as much as possible. For me, it's music. I really love music. So I went out and tried to learn as many Spanish songs as possible. So I would sing to them. In trying to learn the lyrics and trying to make sure that I can sing the lyrics, I was literally learning more words and more words and more words, and practicing being able to speak and move my tongue around. For some people, it's movies. Again, sometime back while I still had some more time, I would watch movies. So go to Netflix, put on a movie. Watch it in Spanish. Maybe you can put subtitles. Try as much as possible to use your ear to pick as many of the words as possible. And maybe you can use the subtitles in English or in your whatever language that you're trying to learn from. But try to use the hobbies to learn as much as possible. So music, go to whatever music app you use. Listen to a lot of music in that language. You'll notice that over time you actually pick up more and more words. And as you pick up more and more words, these words stick in your head. They become part of you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell. And I hope by the time we come back for the next video, you're actually going to have started your journey to learning your new language. Lots of love. Catch you very soon with another video. Bye.